Well, hi there. Welcome to the show. I'm Elizabeth Oakes Roach of Local Spirit, your host of the show. It's been a few weeks since my last episode. Honestly, I've been struggling. Some of it's health stuff. I recently moved from the Pacific Northwest to East Texas and have allergies, or diagnosed with allergies. I didn't realize that there's a lot of cedar that blooms here, and I'm allergic to it. So I've got that under control now. And then, I wasn't sure where I wanted the direction of the show to go to. I was thinking I had to have an original idea or topic every time I publish an episode. And that's just not realistic. I mean, there are all kinds of things going on here, from the border crisis to our upcoming primary election. And there are a lot of people talking about those very things. I guess what has really been on my mind is what I call the awakening. You might ask, well, what is that? It's a movement. It's a coming out of the distractions, an awareness of all the lies that we've been held captive to, and an interest to preserve liberty and get involved in ways to steward our freedoms. I think a place to start is I want to talk about where I came from. So imagine a small college town in the Pacific Northwest, kind of hippie, grungy, but beautiful scenery. Everything is very dramatic. The trees are 100 to 200 feet tall. The mountains around are at least 4,000 feet high. You've got volcanoes 10,000 feet high. It's very, very beautiful. And it's a little grungy, kind of like that Seattle, but smaller than Seattle vibe. Granola, beanie wearing, and puffy vest Subaru driving way. There's coffee always at hand, and it's misty and chilly outside, but not freezing cold. And folks are non-confrontational. It's like, hey, you do you, man, and I'll do me. Whatever is your truth. Very tolerant of everything and everyone. And that's how things were for many years, until 2020. And what happened in 2020? Oh yeah, that COVID-19 thing. And just for a reminder, that was March of 2020. We're coming up now on 4 years. But it feels like a lifetime ago. This same town was so quick to shut their doors on everything during COVID, gleefully embracing the mandates to close shop, and those open, well, they better stay 6 feet away while you're in line. 8 months later, hush talks of COVID vaccine were going around. And a couple months after that, that same vaccine was introduced to the most vulnerable, the elderly and immune compromised. They could sign up and receive their COVID-19 vaccine first before the rest of the population. Once available to the entire population, a lot of stores, restaurants, and businesses mandated that their customers provide proof that they had received a COVID vaccination upon entry into their establishments. I mean, even toy stores. I kid you not. Toy stores, pizza parlors, ice cream parlors, bars, restaurants, clubs, gyms, they all required a proof of vaccination upon entry. So much for tolerance. So much for you do you, man, I'll do me. Yeah, that was gone. Replaced by a spirit of dictator-like mentality and pure irritation that one who would not comply was somehow an enemy. And they're ignorant of the perceived threat of COVID. But more than anything was a spirit of control. That same year, 2020, a couple days after the election, a protester organized by a homeless advocate parked himself on the lawn of the city hall, like right on the grass. Just set up a camp with tents and camping equipment, and the mayor did nothing, except to say that these protesters had the right to protest the lack of housing and homeless accommodations, even though there was a faith-based shelter that the homeless can go to for overnight stays. He claimed that they had the right to camp on public property. And of course, this camp spread out. The camp grew in size, it grew in filth, danger, and lasted for nearly 3 months. It grew to include the front lawn of the city hall as well as the entirety of the library lawn just across the street. Employees that worked in City Hall, I was one of them, could request an escort by an officer into their offices if they chose, but any complaining or filth of noise was frowned upon as if they just needed a lesson in tolerance and compassion for those less fortunate. Drug use in broad daylight by those in the homeless camp was a daily occurrence. Fire marshals and police officers were called to the camp daily, a giant waste of money, time, and resources, all to accommodate the lawless camp in the name of tolerating a protest. Eventually, the camp was removed by law enforcement. It had to be. Crime was rising, it became a fire hazard, and there was even a knife attack from one of the camp residents. So a collaborated effort of local city police, sheriff, border patrol, and state troopers was needed to remove the camp, but not without a fight. On the day of the camp clearance, protesters formed a human chain barricade where they blocked law enforcement from escorting campers off the lawn of City Hall. They spit upon and yelled obscenities in the faces of the officers. About 4 people were arrested on suspicion of assault and disorderly conduct. All of this occurred on the day the camp was finally cleared. The camp was estimated to have about 90 to 120 persons experiencing homelessness. And now for the truly bizarre. In 2022, the school board director for the local school district, her name is Jen Mason. She made national news, and it was discovered that she was the owner of a sex shop. And not just your, lover's package type sex shop. No, her shop hosted sex education classes for kids. Kids as young as 9 years old could attend classes where they covered topics like sexual anatomy for pleasure and what does it mean to be intersex. I mean, really, this woman shouldn't even be on the school board, let alone anywhere near children. Her shop also specializes in transgender products. So, a funny thing happened during all this madness. A group of concerned citizens, they got together in the surrounding area. Neighbors, friends within the city, outside the city, they came together and they gathered in homes to discuss their concerns and looked into the issues they were facing. Were these actions lawful? Did they have a say in the curriculum being taught in their children's schools? Why the increase in lawlessness? When did free expression of thought and exchange of ideas become suppressed when they questioned authority? Why was this happening? And better yet, what could be done about it? For the past 3 years, I've seen grassroots groups spring up among the population. I would say nearly every county in the Pacific Northwest now has a group of critical thinking residents that have banded together to educate themselves on their rights, their freedoms, protect liberties, and even conduct lawfare. From cowboy churches to small private recipe and canning exchanges that secure food preservation, people are awakening to government overreach, and they're becoming interdependent on their local community. The awakening seems to revive our dependence on one another, that we need each other. What one person has a skill in, the other may need and can trade for. Additionally, we have gone back to our founding documents. We have dusted off books and teaching our country's constitution. Many new workshops are scheduled and regularly educate locals on the fact that our constitutional republic's purpose is not to provide services or protection to its citizens, but it is to protect our liberties and protect us from government overreach. It is actually our responsibility to protect ourselves. That is why we have the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. But this awakening was at a cost. a high cost. It's been a painful cost, the loss of jobs, positions, and businesses due to COVID-19 and vaccine mandates, loss of relationships with family and friends who disagree on these issues. But in the awakening, I hear over and over again how individuals have found my people. Finally, my people. It's like the lines are so clear now. This is where I stand. And even though there is an awakening, it's a hard battle for those in liberal, tyrannically run states, because now they're on the defense. They will have to fight to uncover and prosecute election fraud, clear their government agencies of corrupt leaders, and push back on unlawful legislation, both being introduced and old laws that have been on the books for decades. Now, I tell you all of this that though there is an awakening, it took tyrannical mandates and near destruction of a beautiful city to wake people up. Bellingham is a small city. It's only about 100,000 people, and the surrounding area is rural, small farms, and country folk who largely stay away from the Bellingham area because of its liberal vibe. They thought that if they stayed away from it, it would stay away from them. But they learned the hard way that they have to stay engaged to keep the madness at bay. It's a cautionary tale that I share because I now live in a similar place in East Texas. I'm near Tyler, Texas, which is about 110,000 people, and it's just outside of just outside of Tyler are ranches. There's a lot of rolling hills, country folk who go to work, tend to their gardens, shoot some guns on Saturday afternoon, and they want to be left alone. Many in the area, they have at least 5 to 10 acres of property, and tending to property, it's time consuming. And they might believe that they don't have time to get involved in their county meetings or school board gatherings. And as I've said before, it doesn't have to be all things on all fronts. Choose one thing to address to your local elected. That's it. And if each one of us does one thing, it all gets done. Self-governance, it's work, but it's necessary work because tyranny is always at work, always seeking to take away liberty. So I thank you for taking the time to listen, to consider this cautionary tale, this warning, to take the time to consider this example that I've shared and its lesson. The next time I come to you, I'll be sharing what our local Van Zandt County Commission is working on, and I'll let you know ways to get involved. Till then, may the blessings of liberty be upon you.